Hello everybody, Turkey Cat here, bringing you guys another game. This is actually going to be one of two videos that I'm going to upload in succession. The first one here, or both of these videos are going to be using the gas first build. I uploaded a video just the other day of how to defend against the gas first build, and I thought, hey, what better way to transition from that than rather just to do one where I execute. And actually, I decided it'd be good to do two different versions, because with a gas first build, I don't always, or you won't see me personally always do an immediate ling aggression, which I think is what most people assume when they think gas first build, or maybe if you haven't seen this build or aren't familiar with it, and I'll explain it. That is generally the goal, is you're going to get your gas at 14, your pool's going to follow that up at 14. In the example where I defend against it, the player that I was up against decided to wait not to build his 14th drone after his gas, so he went 14-13 pool. And that's fine if you want to do that. It's totally okay to build your 14th drone again after the gas, and that's the way that most people will execute the build, and then transition from there into making more drones. And the way it'll time out is that your pool will finish at the same second, or just slightly after, maybe a second after your 100 gas is mined. So there's really no need to not build that 14th drone after it, and that's what you're going to see me do here. So I'll go ahead and start this game. Now, the two different versions of this game that I'm going to show you are basically one with and one without the initial ling aggression. Now, why do I choose not to do the ling aggression in one of the examples? Actually, it's going to be this example. It's that, well, actually, I'll just wait. I'll just let you guys see, and you can experience this game with me as if you were in the driver's seat here. So, as you see, I am just starting up here with a normal drone that you see from every Zerg, unless they're cheesing. Same here from my opponent, Arcmy, who was an equal level player, and both top diamond, I believe. So yep, it should be a pretty good game here. And what you're going to see is reasons why I decide not to do that aggression, and what I do as a follow-up. What do you do at that point when you've already invested into the early gas, getting the speed early, and then what? If you decide not to make lings, are you behind? How much behind are you, and how do you decide what to do from there? So basically, I'm going to start out here now. My 13th drone was rallied to the extractor, so I went ahead and built that immediately. My 14th drone was already built before the 13th one finishes, so it is 14 gas, but it's a little bit of an easier trick rather than pulling one off of the mineral line, in case maybe he just gets back there, or he just reached minerals, and you don't, it's I don't know. I just like doing that. Rally the 13th drone and build the extractor, the 14th. And then you build another drone, and then you build the spawning pool. And so gas is being mined now. My opponent did choose to hatch first. This build is not an automatic win against hatch first or anything like that, but it forces your opponent to do some drastic actions to defend. If you saw my gas first defense build, I explained that you want to put queens on the ramp, etc., etc. Try to defend that area. Don't put any drones down the natural quite yet until the aggression comes. As my pool finishes up here, you'll see that I'm nearing 100 gas. It's correct to actually, after 88 gas, to start pulling these drones immediately. After 88 gas, you'll get 3 more drones that'll go, but I missed it by just a couple, so I am going to actually have 108 gas, but that's fine. The speed starts immediately, and the queen starts immediately. Now, he did actually come in here with this drone, and I didn't show it, but he did scout this. I can go back and I can show the exact time of when he did come into my base and see it. Now, he's just leaving at this point in the game, so I'll move back a little bit farther. So this would be about probably a 12 scout timing, and he's going to come in here and see, okay, yep, he's got gas, he's got a pool, so he knows exactly what I'm doing. And that's one reason why I decide not to do the ling aggression. But that, at this point in the game, my mind is still set on a ling aggression. As my overlord moves in here, and I will actually just take it back to the point in the game we were at. There's no reason to relive those moments. But my overlord is going to creep in here slowly. I'm about to discover the timing on this hatchery, which is going to tell me that he is hatched first. And, on this map, or mini maps, when your overlord arrives here shortly after this point in the game, you're going to realize that, yep, this timing, being about 75% done, is a hatch first timing. But I did start a queen immediately after my speed. You will be able to afford both speed and that. You want to make sure that, the reason why I decided to take, I'll pause for a second and explain. The reason why you do want to take off gas is that you do want to expand behind this. It's not an all-in. You're not going to try to instantly win the game right now with this opening. It's just an aggressive opening to hopefully get some damage in on your opponent. One of the great things you can do is pick off queens. A lot of times you can kill both the queens if there's only two and they're not in the correct position, and that can be just game-changing. At that point, you're going to be 2 full injects ahead, or at least a full inject ahead of your opponent. You're going to maintain your queens. You're going to keep creep spread, and he's forced to just sit there and spend 300 minerals remaking his queens as well as everything else. So that's why you take everything off of gas, so you can get everything back on the mineral patches. And I choose to make, if I pull up the production tab, the 4 initial zerglings, and the timing will work out that they will just about be done by the time you can afford that hatchery. So you can see I have 255 minerals, my queen is coming out, and my drone is heading down to make the hatchery. Now I will resume the game and explain that I like to make one more drone. You can choose not to, but as you can see I'm almost fully saturated. I just need one more to be fully saturated on minerals. And I do always make one more drone in this build, but before I do that, I inject with the queen, make another queen. That's just the way I do it. You can choose not to do that because this hatchery won't be up for a while, so you can forego the queen for a little bit. But there's my drone right there. Speed is about half done for me, and at this point in the game my opponent is making 2 queens and a spine crawler, and I see that with my overlord. This is the point in the game when I decide I'm not going to make any links. And the reason why I decide that is this: I can tell the spine crawler is in a good position. It's right here blocking the ramp. I can assume based on the positioning of the spine crawler and the fact that I can see that this hatchery is producing a queen with the movement. You can tell based on the speed of the movement that he's producing a queen. So I know as I move this overlord back, that queen's almost done. He's going to have a spine crawler here in good position to this ramp, and he's going to have another queen coming out in his main. Why would you build one in your natural if you're not going to build one in your main? In a hatch first build, you always build 2 queens anyway. So he looks like he's going to be prepared for this, and he knows what he's doing, so he looks like he's going to block this off. Now my goal here is, or my thought process is basically, is it better to make a bunch of lings, spend all that money, investment into larva and investment with minerals, just to throw stuff at my opponent and hope that I do something when it looks like he's going to be well defended? Well, no, you wouldn't do that with anything else. Even with the investment I already made, you wouldn't make mutas if you've already scouted that he puts spores all over his base. Or I guess you could, but why? You could do something much better. If you know your opponent is massively putting up anti-air in his base, then make roaches and go kill him, because you just spent a bunch of money and lost drones making spores everywhere, and it's a needless thing. You could expand or whatever, whatever you felt was appropriate in that game. But in this game, this overlord tells me with this spine crawler scout, he knows what's coming. He scouted it. He's aware of exactly what I'm going to do, and he's preparing for it, as well as producing lings behind this and getting his own speed. So I can't see obviously the lings coming out, but I assume he's going to have lings. I assume he's going to do this, and my hope is that maybe the best I can do at this point is scare him into thinking that, okay, yeah, I am going to be doing a lot of ling aggression, and maybe he will make lings himself, which will actually just give me a bit of a lead. In my other video where I talk about defending against a gas first build, I didn't actually explain this, but I did make 6 original zerglings in the very early part of the game when you normally make 4, and then I went back to drone production for the meantime while keeping some larvae available to me for that incoming attack. And I chose to make my zerglings only when I saw him actually move out of his base. Now I did explain, I did say that, but I didn't explain why. And the reason why is that I'm not sure yet 100% if he's going to be making a ton of zerglings to send at me. And if I know my defense is good enough with the 2 queens in the front, why would I need to invest so much more into lings that I know I can't use? Why do I know I can't use them? Because he has a speed advantage on me, and speedlings decimate slow lings, and until I have speed, I won't have any opportunity to actually harass him at all if I know his speed is faster than mine. He'll have way more time than he needs to react if he sees a bunch of slow lings moving out of my base. So why would you make them? You don't need to make them, even if you know that your opponent is doing a gas first build, might be doing some ling aggression. It's actually a waste of money, and it'll put you behind. It could potentially put you behind if you choose to make all of those lings early. Now, yeah, if he does show up in your base with a bunch of lings, great, you're going to be able to defend that, but you can defend it without making all of those slings, and that's why I chose not to do that in my game. Now I don't know yet if he chose that same thing, but that's basically my hope at this point in the game is, okay, I'm going to just drone. I'm going to, he's scared right now. He's feeling like I might be hitting him with a bunch of speedlings here soon. He invested 100 minerals into the spine crawler. He's hopefully going to make a bunch of zerglings, maybe not if he's a good player. Or if he reads this correctly, he may not make it if he reacts the same way that I would. And then that'll at least hopefully try to keep our terms even if he leaves these queens here for a little bit, expecting that pressure, maybe makes another queen, etc., etc. That can just give me an advantage. And while he's sitting there scared, if I'm droning, then I'm not really under any threat of attack from him, so it's totally fine. So back here in the main base, you do make the queen immediately when your spawning pool finishes. Like I said, you will be able to afford both of those things, and it's important to get that inject up as fast as possible. That's why you need to make that queen immediately, as well as the speed, because the timing will work out perfectly that when speed is almost done, this inject will finish, and you can make 4 additional sets of lings on top of the lings that you already have coming out just from the natural larva that spawns from the main hatchery. So one thing to note here that is also important is that right now, after making 2 queens and after making 1 additional drone and having 16 drones, I do have one right here, so 16 total drones, I am at 22 supply. Now that's not enough to actually allow me to make as many zerglings as I want. So even though you're only at 22 out of 26 supply, you do make your overlord at this point. So I'll recap a little bit because this build is pretty tight. You want to get to 100 gas, take everything off of gas, get speed, obviously you'll have an overlord at 16 like normal, but you'll get speed, you'll get your queen, and that will put you up to 18. Then your overlord will finish. You will make 2 sets of zerglings. That'll put you at 20. Then you'll make, well, actually I'd be at 15. That's where you'd be at 20. 15 drones at that point. Then you make the 1 additional drone and the other queen as soon as the first queen finishes, or slightly later if you want to. And that'll put you at exactly 22 supply, and that's when you make your other overlord. That way you have enough, you can continue producing. And that'd be really important if I was going to do ling aggression, but it's also really important that I'm not. So that overlord is half done at this point, and this inject is about to finish. Now, normally I would be using these larvae right here to make zerglings and probably leave them rallied right here, into the main, so that he can't see them in the front base if he happens to be poking up with this overlord. Now I am using an overlord, my 3rd one, to push this overlord away, and that's really important because you don't want him to actually know how many zerglings you have. You want to leave that threat of attack there so that he's scared and feels like he can't move out of his base. If he didn't see any zerglings here at all, he may assume that they're here. But likewise, if I have 4 here, which is the standard amount to have in the beginning of the game, and I'm producing additional ones up here and leaving them here, they have speed, so it's not going to take them long to get from here to here. And if I make a ton of zerglings here and wait and then move out with them all at once, he might say, well, he's only got 4 zerglings. Holy crap, there's 30 zerglings. And that can really throw him off. Now, obviously, with a speed first build with just these 2 additional larvae plus the 4 they're about to pop out, that's not 30 zerglings, but just an example. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and resume this game, and you're going to see me just continue to produce drones. So 5 drones going down right there. And you saw that I am resuming gas. My transition at this point is I know that, okay, I have a gas advantage on him. I already have my speed, so why don't I continue that? So I'm going to actually rush for mutas in this game off of a gas first. Now this is actually a little bit different than going muta first with a traditional opening. But right now you can see that he did actually produce, looks like 4 total zerglings. One of them is moving up, so he didn't overreact. He did actually have the queens blocked off. So if I had showed up here with, let's see, 4 lings plus the 4 additional from the 2 larvae plus the 8 more from the other larvae, that'd be 16. And he's going to have a spine crawler, 3 zerglings, and 2 queens here. That's more than enough to defend that. So I made a correct decision in not actually attacking him with anything. And at this point, he's getting a roach warren in an attempt to, he thinks that I'm investing heavily into lings. And so this roach warren is actually going to give me a huge advantage. And I'm learning this at the same time you are, because I have not actually watched this replay up to this point. So he's still under threat. He thinks that I'm going to be attacking him with a lot of zerglings here shortly. And since he can't get this overlord in, he doesn't see that I'm actually producing drones, and more importantly, taking 2 more gas. If he saw that, he's going to know that I'm teching, and that's going to tell him that he doesn't need to invest in this roach warren. I mean, he already did, but he could tell him that he has the ability to drone and tech as well. So he's getting evolution chamber. Looks like he's going to go for like a +1 roach at timing, would be what I would think if I hadn't managed to scout this. Now, just droning behind it. While I did actually take my second gas in my main, got that saturated, continued producing drones the whole time. As the drones started to filter in down here, I went ahead and took these gases immediately so I can get as much gas as possible. And my next 100 gas went into building a lair. And I should actually go back because that's pretty important to show that timing there. So as this gas finishes, I do have the 3 larvae that drones that were rallied there. They just got there a moment earlier, and I went ahead and made my lair with the next 100 gas I had. So it was around the 530 mark after I decided to put these guys back on gas. I already have speed. I haven't made a baneling nest or anything like that, but I took my next 100 gas and immediately made lair. You want to do that if you're rushing to mutas. So as my queen comes back down here, I spread a creep tumor up here. I'm just making sure that he can't get this overlord in there. That's the most important thing, because I don't want to see that I don't want him to see that I just took my 3rd and 4th gas. Now he might not know that I have the 2 in the main, but it's a pretty easy scout on this map if he sends an overlord in from this direction. So a lot of analysis, a lot of big ideas I'm throwing out right now, but I just want to make sure I cover all the bases. These are all the things that are going through my head when I play this game, and I say I need to make sure he doesn't know this is coming. So I keep this overlord here. I'm not allowing this one to come in and scout, and I am taking these gases as fast as possible. So as my lair goes, or just finished up, I am going to take make my spire, and then just continue droning until I have fully saturated main and natural. Now, at this point in the game, when you get a fast lair, normally I would get an overseer immediately and send it into his base to see what he's doing. But since I'm going for such a high surprise, I don't want him to know that I have such a fast lair. At this point, it'd be normal for him to have a lair or have started it, or at least started it. I wouldn't say have it unless he was rushing for it. So it wouldn't be so out of this world for me to show up with an overseer right now, but it would at least tip him off that I'm on lair tech. And as of right now, he hasn't scouted anything. He doesn't know if I even have drones here or not. So I figure it's best if I go for this surprise and show up in his base with a bunch of mutas out of nowhere really early in the game and just hopefully throw him off drastically. So as I continue to tech up here, or my spire continues to build, I should say, I'm just making sure that I have plenty of supplies. I did build extra overlords, and I'm making a couple more lings. With mutas, you also want to be spending money on lings. I took this tower here to make sure, I went and killed the ling he had there, making sure he doesn't have a ling scout here at my 3rd base, because I'm going to take that shortly after I attack with mutas. Since I will have map control, I can take my 3rd. So natural transition you should be thinking about in your head at the time. I see this overlord's here. I see this one's moving in with these lings, or they will see that shortly. So I know that right now he's basically clueless, and I don't know for sure that there aren't any overlords down this path, but that's the path I'm going to choose to send these mutas in a moment as soon as I'm able to make them. So I have the supply ability, and actually I missed it, but I did make 10 mutas, and not investing into upgrades because I want to transition out of this at some point, and I really don't want to stick with mutas the whole game. And a lot of times you can make mutas and send them and start killing his overlords just to let him know, hey, I have mutas, you better not move out of your base. But with a muta rush strategy, this is really catching him off guard, and that's what I'm banking on. I'm banking on the fact that he has no idea these mutas are here, so I'm going to keep that concept alive as long as possible. So that's why I rallied them down across the right side and then over. Now, you could have overlords there, and if you see overlords there, it'd probably be a better idea not to attack them, because you can get into his main base, see how much damage you can deal immediately, and if you get held off by lots of queens or spores, or if he manages to get them up and defend well after your original harassment, then most likely he spent all of his APM and time focused on that and didn't actually retrieve his overlords. So from that point, you can go from his base and attack outwards like this, so moving in this direction, and starting here, moving in this direction, and so forth. So he actually can't retreat these overlords back to his base. If you're coming, from this side and you're attacking this direction, then he can say, "Oh, come back," and he might lose this one if it's the first one I attack, but he might lose this one too, and this one too, because they're pretty far out there. But all of these are going to make it back in his base, and they're going to be safe. And if you're really trying to get as much out of this as you possibly can, then it's a good idea, in this case, to go and see how much base harassment you can do at first, and then if let's say I was held off, or he had a bunch of spores up if you read it, or he happened to scout and he knew it was coming and he had prepared for it, I could come in here, poke, and be like, oh, can't do any damage, maybe move around this direction, come around this way, go up this way, oh, poke, oh, can't do any damage, crap, okay, come back here, maybe try to pick off a queen, nope, he's defending well, okay, crap, well, kill these 2 overlords, kill this overlord, do some micro that way, alright, well, let's move out, that's my overlord, kill this overlord, let's move up this way, oh, let's kill these 3 overlords, okay, now I can, then I'd maybe just start attacking attack moving across the entire map like this and just looking for overlords, and then, you know, oh, there's an overlord, and I know about this overlord and this overlord. So, you know, that's just something you can transition out of. In this game, is that going to happen? No. In fact, this is going to end quickly, because he's going to see these mutas, he's going to realize he's completely unprepared, and I am meanwhile making lings behind this, not just because I saw these roaches move out, but yes, I expect that one of the possible reactions you might have to muta showing up in your base is to all in. Another possible reaction, you know, or it could be just a good timing attack anyway. And as his +1 did finish up on these roaches, he is planning to do a +1 timing attack here, which can, small amounts of slow roaches in the early part of the game can easily be held off by the large amounts of speedlings, especially with mutas. If I decided to pull these mutas back, I could defend easily if I really needed to. But basically, in this game, you know, what I needed to talk about, I've talked about. I allow the mutas to bunch up. I move in. I'm going to do some initial harassment. I'm just going to pick off as many of these as I possibly can, and then kill this queen. Maybe try to clear out this mineral line before he pulls it. But he will just actually leave the game at this point. But that is really besides the point. You know, I am basically just showing that I am using these lings to defend my third right now, and he's moving up in that direction. So that was basically my game plan there, is multi-prong. I think that these number of lings could actually fare well against these, but +1 roaches do kill lings in 2 hits rather than 3. So this is a pretty intimidating army for the early game. A +1 timing attack is pretty strong, and if I really had to, like I said, I could pull these mutas back and kill the roaches before they'd be able to do any significant damage to what I have up. Worst case, I'd probably have to cancel my third. But I would be able to do enough damage here in the meantime where I could really make it pay for itself anyway, and he's not going to be able to continue attacking me with just roaches while I have mutas on the map, and it's going to allow me to retake my third and go ahead and continue the game that way while making sure that he doesn't take his third in either one of these 2 locations. So that's pretty much it for this game, showing you how to transition out of a gas first, you know, depending on what you see, and how to make sure your opponent isn't aware of your transition choice. And mutas is just one transition, but it is one of the strongest transitions out of gas first, having that advantage over your opponent. So that's it for this one. I'm going to do another one immediately after this. It's going to show gas first with ling aggression and the transition I make out of that one. So I will see you guys next time.